And welcome back to the Off the Clock Show, joined again with your host, Shawn Gervais from the OrbisX CRM, as well as Marty, Mr. Marshall Hill, the Pints of Polishing podcast, as well as hyperClean products, car care products, that is. and hey, he's got everything you need. You can ceramic coat your whole bathroom too, though. But that actually does work, believe it or not, on glass and stuff. Oh, big time. But
Yeah,
and
we
sorry,
use it on our shower door all the time. Like
nice, yeah.
about every year, I go back and redo it and spray it down with slick about every month.
Just
So I
makes
love
life
it. Yeah,
so much easier,
so much easier.
And yeah, I saw something interesting recently I hadn't thought of too. Someone was actually ceramic coating a motorcycle helmet, and I don't have a bike, can't ride until my kids have left the house, as it was explained to me, but by the boss, commander in chief. But yeah, so I don't ride. So it's something I never thought of. But there's all those like you know accessory side of it, because that goes into all kinds of things as well. Like I see all these kids on these e-bikes now, these little scooters and stuff. They got to wear helmets, or they should wear helmets anyways. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly like how much. I mean, do people like polish their helmet? Like, do they clean it? Like,
No idea. I think
I don't
you're
know.
onto something that might not have a big tail. Might be just a
Yeah,
very small tail that you're
very
chasing.
small. Yeah, yeah. But more for the DIY people. They could.
DIY definitely. Like
Yeah, I definitely don't
detailer
think
though,
there's a
I don't
business
think so.
there. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. 100% no.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it was interesting though, and it did get my creative juices thinking about alternative markets and stuff. Which is an
Yeah,
important process to go through. And
it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I had some downtime this weekend because the kids were gone, so that's where I.
Oh yeah, we had some dates, did we?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely,
Oh.
and it's
What'd you do
important.
on your date?
Yeah, so it's funny. We didn't really have too much planned because we were supposed to go out of town for a baby shower. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it. We had to deal with some other stuff. But then once that was done, it was like, well, we had booked this whole weekend off to go out of town. What do we do now? So we stayed in town, but we said, let's have a night out without the kids still and do something. It's important. And so we went out for dinner. We went to the Keg, just had some nice steak. Wife was craving steak. We wanted something nice. It was close by our house. And then after
What
that,
cut you? What do you like?
so it's funny. Me, I'm more a seafood guy. So in this case, they had like an end of summer special. It's the end of our summer here.
Did they
Anyway,
ever
I
get
got
the picanha back at that place you go to?
no chops.
Never.
Oh, no,
Mm.
never came back. So disappointing. I don't know if maybe nobody ordered it because they were like, "What is this?" They couldn't pronounce on the menu. I don't know, but I even asked special request. I said, "Listen, we'll come back here every weekend, no joke. Just put it back on the menu." And they were like, "Unfortunately, it wasn't very popular here and stuff." Jeez, it's wild because to me that was the best one. But yeah, and that restaurant's still good, but their service has been kind of lacking lately. So they grew a little too fast, and I think that might also be one of the reasons they added a ton of stuff to their menu, and it's just too much for them to keep up with. So we went back to the good old classics, the favorites. But so me, I got what the hell did they call it? It was a Dungeness crab something with a lobster pasta thing, and then it was like a surf and turf, but also had crab. It was really good.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, but I tell you though, I was most excited for the crab,
Yeah.
and it was actually the most disappointing part of the meal, which was crazy. And I was like, "Geez, guys, this is your special." But they made up for it because the steak was phenomenal, which was a nice turn of events for me. So that was good. But hey, usually I won't even finish if I get surf and turf. I won't finish the whole steak because I'm not a big red meat guy. But in this instance, man, polished it. I was even looking at my wife. So I was like, "You gonna finish that?" So yeah, so it was good though. We had some nice free time. Afterwards, we went to this thing. Well, tried to go to this thing. It's called Latin. What do they call it now? Latin Sparks Fest or something. Used to be on Spark Street. This street here, it's a pedestrian street. No cars, no nothing. So it's just shops you can walk to. Huge long road. They used to have it there, and it used to be crazy hype. Now they moved it outdoors. Well, still outdoors, but they moved it to this field, and it's right by the water. Sounds nice during the day. Probably amazing when the sun's out. But once that cool air hits and it's just coming in with a little bit of wind over the the river, it was freezing. So we pulled up. It's Latin night, so we could hear some music, yeah, but we're just seeing everybody just standing around in a field. I'm like, geez, man, like it's because they're standing on grass. You ever try to do like bachata on grass? Like it's not fun.
Can't say that I have. you know,
Yeah, see,
I'll,
exactly. So people were
trying to think about
yeah,
that.
put it on the roadmap. There we go. Yeah, but yeah, so people were just standing there, and there was a bunch of vendors, and so that's what they were banking on. But
Do you think inside of the OrbisX group you could do a demonstration for us?
Bachata,
Mhm. Mhm.
sure, absolutely, yeah,
No, in grass, like.
yeah. In grass,
Mhm.
sure, sure. I tell you what, our shop just hit 1,200 5-star reviews. Woo! Once we hit 1,500, I'll dance the bachata on grass. That's what we'll do. I'm gonna tell my staff, give the most horrible service you can. Don't do it. I got a lot riding on this.
So you're out dancing in grass this weekend, huh?
Mhm. Almost. We didn't go because the tickets were $100 each, and to go, stand around with a bunch of people standing around listening to the same music I'll listen to at home, wasn't a fan. So we drove past it. We pulled in like we were gonna go and get the tickets, pull up. Didn't look like the right vibe for us. Because before, man, it was so animated. Everyone was hype. Everyone was just dancing the street, spinning people around, all kinds of stuff. Because it was on a street, on a pedestrian street, so there's no cars and everything. But totally changed it. So in my opinion, they really, really messed up on this one. And they moved it ever since after COVID. This was the first time when it was reopening, and the videos. And that was one thing I'll say is that the videos online made it look so incredible. And so that's where like your marketing is so important, because if you hype me up like that and I had bought tickets and then I went and it was terrible, you'll never get me again. And I'm going to tell every single person that I know, don't do this, skip this event. So it'll be the last time you ever get a dog, but if, you set the expectations of what it's really going to be like, then, longevity. That's how you build that. But anyway, yeah. So it was a nice weekend. Got to spend some time with the wife. It was really nice. Without 400 million questions from kids and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a nice quiet weekend. How about yourself?
We
Yeah.
did a little day too. We did some day drinking day.
Ooh, all right, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Caipirinhas
just
or
we went to our butcher. We grabbed some steaks that we ate for that night. Got some
Beauty.
picanha that I think I'll do tonight or tomorrow night. I hadn't decided. We hadn't
Yeah,
been back
yeah.
to get some picanha in a while. We're like,
So
we
jealous.
need some. We need some.
Yeah, I'm so jealous.
So we went and sat down at one place. We kind of hopped around a little bit, which was fun.
Nice.
I like doing that. Just spend the afternoon hopping a couple different places. And one was it's a microbrewery that I enjoy in Jinx, which is a suburb of Tulsa that I live. And we'll go and play chess. So
Okay,
we
nice.
started that little challenge. That's fun,
Yeah, yeah.
And she's almost. I mean, she'll beat me. I think.
Damn.
She almost got me last game, so she's getting
Oh,
better. She's getting a lot better. I know I'm going to lose sometimes, so
yeah. You're
it's
just
fun
bracing
though,
yourself
right?
for that moment.
Yeah, yeah,
But it is
right.
fun. It's the yeah.
You
Those
know,
kind of dates are amazing though. We used to do that when we went, dates before we had kids. We'd always play Scrabble. That was our thing.
Mm.
We'd always go with bring a Scrabble game, and sometimes the waitress, she'd be walking by and she'd like, tell my wife like, oh, by the way, he's got this or something. I'm like, hey, there goes your tip, So they'd get involved. It was a whole thing. Those kind of dates are the best, I think, and gets your mind going. Plus, it just opens up conversation about stuff,
No,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it did. Open up conversation. We started talking about what is my theory and what is her theory? Then what do we want to do kind of moving forward of the idea of, time versus money?
Mm,
How do you handle your amount of time with the amount of money you want? Plus, when do you trade time for money? When do you trade money for time? And
mm,
that develops some really interesting conversations, especially around the fact of the amount of time that I spent giving away free information.
ah, yeah. It's
Right? And it's not just the amount of time that you and I spend here on this podcast. It's my
yeah,
podcast. It's the past podcast you and I have done together, right? That's only just hours of podcasting, right?
yeah,
Then it's phone calls. Then it's,
yep,
I would go travel around the country doing certifications and I didn't charge for it. So it was, you use
jeez,
my products, you get certified,
yeah.
and you start adding all that up and you begin to ask the question,
What
what
point?
what point do you want
Yeah,
money for your time because you've traded so much time for no money. And that really rolls into this idea from inside of the OrbisX group, right? It was a great question that was from one of the members, and he posed a question about how, you know, he had helped. I guess he didn't post a question. He was posting that he had helped one of his customers, and he had said, you know, hey, listen, it's not always about money, right? And that is a really great theory, and it's as we let's have an open kind of discussion about that idea, right? Like, I used to have that idea.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always about the money, and it does make sense at a certain period in time of your life or in your business where it's okay to just help somebody.
For sure.
And it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's actually part of us as human beings that we're better as being a human being if we help people, right? Like, it's part of who we are. Like, we should help others. Absolutely. Which is what you and I do, right? Like, we do give away so, yeah, we help so much. At what point do you begin to go, okay, I can help people, and if there's a money transaction, then that help and money, time versus money, is actually coexist. And it's not a differentiating factor, right? So I put into that discussion point with the guy that left that post. And I said, okay, so what about if you had a product that you could have helped him with and you sold it to him and it solved his problem, right? Instead of just doing something for free, what if you solved your customer's problem? Or at that point in time, he wasn't even a customer because there was no money traded. So it's a prospect. And that really, when you define it that way, you begin to dig into it a little bit more, right? Because you can't say it was a customer because there was no money transaction. So this was a prospect that looked at your business, and then he left with a free service that he didn't pay for. Will he ever come back? And he might.
He might.
He might.
From my experience, like at our shop, for example, there was times, especially in the beginning, where we would give away things at different times. Like sometimes it was, you know, and even now we run contests and we do give things away. But we do have a process in place for it. So for us, it's not so much, well, I guess to finish the original thought is that anytime we've given away something for free, the customer either didn't value it at all because we hadn't even put a value to it, kind of thing. And they usually, well, I say customer loosely here because they never came back more often than not. But it was the ones that, you know, made a payment, but then when we over deliver on the value to them, those are the ones where we've now created a really good relationship because we also set our kind of, you know, parameters that we expect X price or X amount of money in exchange for something. But then on top of that, we're going to over deliver something for them as well. You know, it could be anything. Sometimes it was, you know, we do a little extra something, or, hey, we put a little, you know, you mentioned the sun was in your eyes. We put the sun strip on the front, you know, little things like that didn't cost us a lot. We gave it away, but it was kind of just bundled in the whole experience. And so we just deliver a great experience. But the times, I tell you, the times that we have given things just straight, give it away just to help somebody out, something like that, more often than not, they're actually a headache. that was our experience. And I mean, maybe other people have completely different experiences, but I hadn't seen any of those people return as, you know, lifelong customers.
So do you have the tire shops up there that they'll say, hey, come in and you can get a free flat fix where they'll plug? So I used to, as I drove around the state, and especially at quite a few dealerships, there's random stuff always on the back of those dealerships. And I was always having flat tires or holes in my tires. And I would always have to keep airing them back up. And I started trying to use one of those places, right? Because, okay, you want to do it for free? Man.
Yeah, I'm in.
Did I ever spend any money there?
No. Or very little if you did.
No, they eventually said, hey, this one's not repairable.
Yeah.
I go,
really?
pretty sure it is. And they looked at me like, nope, sure isn't. And I was
Yeah,
like,
not this
got
one.
it. I got it, man. I
Yeah,
got it. Okay. So I
because
took
that
my,
was their limit of
that was their limit, right? Like, and that's why I thought this would be an interesting point to just throw back and forth, right? Is we all give away things. So
Mhm,
it wasn't about, you shouldn't because I've given away. And, he performed a really cool service and helped some guy out. Like it was awesome, right? Like,
yeah,
but, if we all want to be in this long term, we do need money.
mhm,
We can't as a business. I'm sure he understands that. I'm sure most of us all understand, right?
for sure.
We all understand that we need money and we can't give away our time for free. Okay. What if we also think about, well, having these moments where people need something and then we might not be able to do the service for them, but I could still bring them into my company
Mm,
by helping fulfill their need. And that's why I mentioned to him, hey, have you thought about distribution? Have you thought about having products on your shelf so that when somebody calls you, sends an email, stops by with a need, and you can't do the service? Boy, I would hate, I mean, you know
yeah,
how hard it takes to get a lead,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a lead. This was a
Yeah.
lead into his company. Now, the
Mhm,
business of detailing, no. But if he had a company in a sense where we're talking, there's different sides of it where there's service, there's product, there's, you can get into different aspects of business that would create more of a company environment. Then he would not only be able to service that guy that was a prospect and walked away for free, that guy would actually become a customer. Then he could get him on the list for when he had an opening, right? They become getting into the funnel in a sense, right?
mhm.
So then they're in your business, they're in your company, and you just begin to work them into more things of eventually getting them in to do a coding, eventually getting them in to maintain that coding. But if you never have the product there to sell, you can never meet
Then you
that
can't.
other, there's this whole other world that detailers for some reason don't want to be a part of, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
and
like only want to be a part of my service and my service only. It's like, gosh, there's this whole other world of where you just handle customers' needs. And if their
yeah,
need is something that you can't provide in a service and you got a bottle on the shelf that you can sell to them for profit, that's awesome, right? Like
boom, exactly, yeah,
as a detailer, I didn't have that option, right? And most companies have this massive. When I started to get into distribution, they wanted $40,000.
yeah,
I mean, as a
just to get
detailer,
started, exactly.
yeah, like what? Like,
Yeah,
huh?
it's
Like
true, and now
so,
the cost of entry, working with hyperClean, for example, it's incredibly low,
yeah,
and so it's and not low in a negative term, but low, it's very affordable to get started, you
ease
know?
of entry.
Ease of entry, thank you, I was trying to think the way to yeah, ease of entry is there, and so there's almost no reason not to do it, but you really do open up that whole sector, and there are some people I know that are worried that their focus, the customers that they drive in are gonna be people that never use their main service, but that can't be further from the truth as well, because what you're actually gonna get is the opposite. You're gonna get, a segment of people that, "Hey, I just wanted to, be able to clean my own car better." You're gonna get those people. You're gonna get other people that, "Hey, I wanna be able to clean my car better, but, oh, hey, you guys also offer this and this service," and so on and so forth, or maybe, "Hey, I've been doing it, but it's actually a lot of work," "So this time I want you guys to handle it. So can we get a maintenance thing going?" And those might actually be some of the best customers you ever get, because if they went through the experience of it, they're gonna value your time and wanna pay you for, what you're worth, because they did it themselves as well. And they're like, "Geez, this is actually a lot of work and your results are even better. So I can only imagine," So that's where I think it does really open up a lot of different doors.
A lot of different doors. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. And it's how many of us love side hustle?
yeah. We got a whole society of it
A
now.
whole society of side hustles. Like, so put some
Yeah,
product on the shelf and start a side hustle inside of your main hustle. Like, see what happens
exactly.
when you build from your business and create a company. Like,
Yeah,
it's really cool. Like,
yeah.
it's a whole other world out there.
Absolutely. And you can still do all of those kinds of sales while still filling that, because sometimes people want to give away stuff because it feels good, right? The philanthropic kind of, like, oh, I'm giving back or I helped somebody out. You can
Mhm.
still get that feeling through sales. And
Absolutely. So what people get out of that part is I love this about a lot of our distributors that have shops and doing what I say is they'll put inside of their like big ceramic package or their big detail package a handful of products that are designed for the customer to continue on with their service and maintaining the vehicle. Because if you had somebody coming back every 6 months or a year, but in between they continue to keep their car clean, your service at 6 months or a year is going to be a lot easier.
exactly.
There really is a domino effect that begins to happen. So, they'll put glass cleaner, they'll put, revive in case they have a little spill, they'll put some stuff like that in for the customer so that they can keep their car clean. And they're seeing both sides of their business continue to increase when, let's be very clear, there's a lot of people right now that are struggling.
And
There's,
they could
there's a
use
lot of people
that
struggling.
boost
They could,
100%.
they could
Yeah.
use it.
That'll help them a lot. And one thing that we always give away, I always joke about it with my staff, but we always give away good service. And I know it sounds silly, but we do this thing. It's a little theory. It's like talk to them like your grandma. So this will be a little pre-tip. Here we go. But so basically, when we're doing a service, what we do is we over deliver on things, and so we are always giving something away, but we do it in a way that, it's kind of like giving away the best experience. So you're giving an experience. That's a service. That is a service, and that's why we go out to eat at a restaurant. It's for that experience. It could be the same kind of food you cook at home, but we talk to customers like you're talking to your grandma, because think of that world. Like, how would you talk to your grandma? You're always going to be kind, courteous. You're going to do whatever you can to come through for them. You're going to deliver that value to them, and that's something that, you're still going to give the customer that experience, like they got something exceptional out of the transaction, but there is still a transaction. So for me, the transactions always, that's key. That's crucial, because that's how we keep the lights on. That's how we pay our staff. So for me, in terms of, trading time and money trumps. Like, it comes first, because what I can do with my time later, then I can use that money and I can fill my own philanthropic needs. I can do a lot more with money than I can by, I could give my time away to one person, for example, but if I have money, I could help out a lot more people that way. So yeah, definitely. But distributorship, very easy to get into nowadays. I know what you mean, because I remember too. It was a little different, but back when I had my video rental business, to get into that business, like, the overhead or the initial startup was just massive, because there wasn't really anything out there. But like, if I was to do the same kind of business now, there's all these licensing deals you can do with media streaming and stuff like that. So it's a lot different. And just like that industry's evolved, so has the detailing distributorship in terms of products. And you're really shooting yourself in the foot if you're not, like, man, they just go hand in hand. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Like, they really do. Like, you're using products, so now you could get your own products cheaper and also resell them to others now, including not just customers in terms of, retail side, B2B as well. Other shops that are near you, around you, if you're worried about competing, like, choose ones that are a little bit further away, travel, whatever the case may be. Me personally, I'm not, but
Here's a good joke, and it's literally just a joke, but based off of our conversation last week, like all you cost calculator guys, how about free
yeah,
product because you're selling half your inventory and then the other part of your inventory is free. So you don't have to worry about your cost calculator anymore. And
there
then
you
you
go.
eventually just get free product plus you're making money because you're selling it. So, all right, done.
Exactly.
Okay.
You just,
All right,
there you
so
go. You're winning all around. Exactly. That's so true, though. But that's where, see, I'm always a big fan. I spend 5% of my time looking at expenses, 95% of my time looking for income, because you can only whittle your expenses down so far, and you'll never get to zero. That's impossible. You're never going to have a business that costs you nothing. It just doesn't exist. And so you're better off to look at the other end of the spectrum, where there's no ceiling at all. You can earn, there's people that earn $1 million a day, like, days. That's a thing. Maybe not detailers, but it's out there. And so there's no ceiling to what you could get. So that's the right approach for sure. But
yeah.
yeah, so we got Q4 coming, and I'm doing some goal setting, or resetting, I guess. because I don't do the, a lot of people wait for New Year's. And that's where they start thinking about, you know, the upcoming year and so on and so forth. But I break my year into micro years, and that's, or micro time, I should say. So I do focus on quarters, but I also focus month to month, week to week, so on and so forth. But the quarters are the big ones for me. So as they're coming, I take a look at what went right, what went wrong in the last quarter. What do we want to do differently in preparation for? And I find it's a good way to sort of break up the year. And it also coincides with the seasons. At least where we are, we're not on the equator, so it's not just the same temperature every day. So the quarters are really how we can kind of gauge what we're going to do for our shop, the marketing we're going to do. So we're already getting geared up for Halloween stuff, things like that, because we want to, hopefully anyway, beat the noise, because we don't want to get caught up in the noise of those major holidays. But so with the quarter approaching, we're doing some goal setting, and I was giving some thought to goal setting today. And I think that what a lot of people need to do is set better goals by attaching emotions to them. So I was looking at my goals and things I was writing down, and it's funny we ended up talking about time and money and stuff, because a big part of it was looking at certain businesses that we have. I've got some offers on some of them. So like even one of my other companies, Printing Shark. So there's a guy who's interested in sort of teaming up. We're going to be working together, and then even one for our auto shop. Different thing going on, and I'm like, okay, so this will free up some time, which is good, and huge injection of cash always helps as well, But I was looking at things, and I was thinking how I was going to make a decision, what I should do one way or the other. And initially, my one thought was just looking at the pros, okay, I'll get more financial freedom, more this, more that, but there was no emotion attached to it. And so I was like, okay, let me think of the emotional side. Like, why do I want financial freedom? We all say like, oh, I want to be millionaire by 30, or I want this or that, or I want to have a Lamborghini. But if you have no emotional attachment to that goal, your chances of succeeding are a lot less, because you're not going to put in the effort that you need to. So whenever I look at my goals, especially now more than ever, I try and find the emotional reason behind that thing. So like if you want to be financially free, maybe, if you look at successful people, usually it's they grew up poor, they grew up with less. So that was their driving force. That was the emotion attached to the goal of being financially free. It wasn't just because they wanted $1 million. It's because the scarcity they had before, the inability to buy certain things, maybe the embarrassment if their card didn't work at the checkout, different things. That was their driving force. And it's kind of like Mike Tyson in his prime. It's that, that eye of the tiger that's just there, and it's unstoppable in comparison to someone who just wants to be financially free because they're like, oh, I see all these, influencers online and like this big house and this and that. If there's no emotion behind that, that goal is going to be really hard to attain. And so when looking at all your goals, try and find that emotional connection. And even with your advertising, like I said, we're redoing all our stuff right now, and for the upcoming holidays, the emotion behind it is what's going to be the driving force of people reacting to our ads as well. So when we're looking at our goals, we're also looking at our customers' goals. Why do they want to do this? Why do they want to do that? And then we're trying to pluck out those emotions as well. So anyway, that's what I'm looking for in Q4, and my thoughts on goal setting. How about yourself? You got some upcoming Q4 goals?
So ours are releases.
I like it. Okay.
So that's the way our goals become, is what products we're releasing.
Product, what new distributor, location, geographic zone. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, specifically, I get your side, but what we kind of, that's just the way the chemical business, like everything revolves around the launches, right? Okay. The next product that we're going to release. And then, so it's actually what we did today in our meeting. We had a meeting yesterday, and then we finalized our meeting today of, what does the rest of this year look like? And then today was, what are we going to put out Q1? And
beautiful.
That's exciting. So I've got some work ahead of me, and it's going to be fun, man. Developing it's just, there's so many things that you can play around with, right? And there's so many different additives. There's so many different, and so those products, we get to start working on them now. And that's exciting, right? Like when you're just launching, thinking about a launch, and you're just going through the the first parts of, well, what do you want in this product? What do we want in this? What is, so one particular is an AIO, do we want it to be a ceramic based AIO? Do we want it to be a wax based AIO? See what do we want in there? How do we want, what level of cut do we want? How much polish do we can start to really
Yeah.
plan out, and it's still 6 months away. So got tons of time. And that
Yeah,
to me,
that's amazing.
that's really
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. I do
Yeah.
enjoy that. So
Yeah. How do you, trying to think of it from your perspective? Because like I, have experience developing products and stuff, primarily in, the software area, but, like looking at a product in my mind, the process would be find a problem and then try and, make a product that, fixes that problem or does it better than what's on the market or
sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
Imagine, but sometimes through that process, I wonder if sometimes it's almost like, I don't know, like a discovery where you're doing something and then it's like, holy shit, I know we were going for this, but this would actually work really well for that. How common is that?
Does happen. Does
Yeah, okay,
happen.
yeah.
Does happen quite a bit. Yeah.
I had a feeling, it's kind of like
Mhm.
the guy who invented the breath freshener, the like mouthwash, stuff like that. They try making one thing and then they're like, oh shit, this actually works really well for this. It's yeah, that always fascinates me because it's just that by chance, but being able to recognize that, whoa,
Mhm.
this could actually,
And or being able to, the boring part becomes also part of the fun part. Studying
uh,
ain't fun.
yeah,
Going back and trying to learn all that stuff and re-understand what everything is. And I've never been a person that can remember these big old long chemistry words. That's not me.
yeah,
But I can make little notes to remind myself of, okay, this one's this type of, this one's going to be this. And I can put them into categories that way. And then I can come back and go, all right, I'm looking for instance, I'm looking for a little bit more lubrication, or, hey, I'm looking for a little bit more on
mm,
this finishing spray. I want a little bit more protection, right? Just examples. So then that means how okay, well, I remember this product, it talked about it can
yeah,
add, release surface tension. Okay, well, that's of course, then that would translate into, well, that would make it slicker. Bingo. Let's add some
yeah,
of this into it. Let's start at what, 3% and figure out that formula, add it in and go test it. Right. Like
yeah, yeah.
that. And then, okay,
And
now
that's
let
where
me
the
do
boring becomes the
yeah,
fun.
then let me do a
Yeah,
little bit more, and then did that solve my problem? And then, it is fun, man. I do enjoy it.
yeah.
It's really enjoyable.
100%. And so right there though, see, when setting your goals, you can see you've got that emotion behind it as well. Just
Sure. Well, it's the emotion
yeah,
of enjoyment. Yeah, I
yeah.
guess is what you're saying.
But that's
We're
beautiful.
also, the other part that is interesting too is we're building out the wash bay. We just
Oh,
painted
nice.
it. I found this company that does wall art, like vinyl
Okay.
wall art. And
Nice.
so we stuck the wall art up, it says hyperclean. It's got our big favicon, and we'll start to build out now a YouTube how-to section so that we can add all those into our website, which you'll love, right? So then
Hey,
we got all those
nope.
link connections, and we can continue to build
Beauty.
out stuff on the website while having more information of, using the hyperclean products on YouTube.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
Yeah, yeah.
those are the big things for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's the
Not
fun
much
stuff,
going on over here at HQ.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty slow. Pretty slow.
Pretty slow. Yeah, slow's good. Slow and steady. No, you got tons going on, but no, that's
Tons.
good
Yeah,
though.
it's a
Yeah, yeah.
blast.
And that's the
That's
fun stuff,
the benefit of ADD, right?
Yeah. It's true.
You
It
can have
actually
so
is though.
much going on.
It's I almost feel like they should study and see if like all the successful people in whatever field they're in, I bet you'd find there's a high percentage of it might be even minute in some people, but it's definitely there. It's
I think that's
yeah,
there, and you can earmuffs if you want.
yeah,
I think the other one that is there, if anybody remembers that, think how to think and grow rich, I think it was that book that talks about, uh, also the majority of all successful people that are driven people are also highly sexual.
oh shit,
That is
no way,
another interesting little, you know,
holy shit,
I wonder
wow,
the ADD side,
hmm.
but I know in that book he specifically talked about that. Like he even listed presidents and all these people that had harems, and I mean, he ratted all.
Yeah.
If that would have been written
Yeah.
today, like it would have been this like laundry list of people that were getting strung up. Like, I mean,
Oh
it was,
yeah.
yeah, it was interesting part of that book. That was, yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing, huh? Looking at those like personality traits and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's the commonalities. That's man, that's wild. So I do have a quick tip for today. I know I kind of threw out some borderline tips there earlier, but I'll dive into something that I was thinking recently because I previously had a business mentor a long time ago. We had a business together, and things just went south because he kind of, I don't know, something kind of happened with him. He just flipped his whole personality overnight. But we had some businesses going that were good. He was twice my age at the time. I was really young, and he had made some products before he invented things. I don't know if you remember a product from the '80s. It was like a little brick. It was a fake brick. You could throw it, and it like wouldn't break the TV. It was like a gag gift they sold in dollar stores and stuff like that. Anyway, he invented this product. He did really well with it, but not well enough that you remember it. But he did do well with it financially. Anyway, he made a bunch of products, but he gave me the best experience and the worst experience in business. And I didn't choose him as a mentor at the time. We just started working together. We built this software application. We got an offer from Yellow Pages for $5 million. It was a great journey. But after that point, he started to kind of lose his marbles, and it was just a really bad working environment working with him. So I ended up just signing over my shares, walked away, clean slate, because I didn't want to end up in court now and stuck with this guy for like 3-4 years, God knows, battling it out. It just wasn't worth it for me at the time. I almost lost my family. It was a mess. So I knew when to call it quits. The tip for today is to find a mentor of some kind, whether it could be someone online, maybe you watch Gary Vee, maybe it's someone in your local, chamber of commerce, who knows what it is, but everybody can benefit from a mentor in some way, shape, or form. And even my terrible experience ultimately in the end had a lot of pros as well through the process. And I was thinking about this recently because there's a guy, Joseph McClendon, that's it, the third. Joseph McClendon the third. He was a coach primarily for athletes, and so he was training some athletes on how to do things. And I was listening to his story, and it was pretty cool what he did. And he was highlighting the difference between an actual mentor and a coach that has your best interest at heart. And what he did was pretty cool. And I'm going to encourage all of you to every day move your own pylon. And what he did is he was training an athletic runner who was going to compete in the Olympics. And the guy was trying to beat his 4-minute mark. He was just having a mental blockage. He wasn't doing very well. So this guy did something pretty cool. He said, listen, I'll train you. It's going to take a couple weeks, but I'll train you, and you're going to smash that 4-minute mark, no problem. So first day they show up, he goes out a mile, he puts down some cones. The guy runs just over 4 minutes, didn't make his time at all. They knew that was going to happen. He said, okay, no worries. Come back tomorrow. We'll do it again. He went back tomorrow, runs. This time he did even worse. Comes back the next day, did even worse. This goes on for a week. The guy's about to give up. He's like, listen, I'm not getting any better. I'm going out every day. The guy's like, just trust me, stick with it. So, okay, they keep going. Another week, another 2 weeks go by, and the guy's getting progressively worse. So the guy's literally at the point, he says, I'm just done. I'm finished. I'm not doing this anymore. And the guy says, listen, one more time, come tomorrow. You're going to smash that 4-minute mark. I guarantee it. Guy comes back the next day and blows it out of the water, just smashes his record. He's like, how the hell did you do that? He said, listen, he says, for the last couple of weeks, I've just been moving the pylons further and further and further away. And we don't do that enough to ourselves, I don't think. I don't think that we set goals, and typically what we'll do is move the pylons a little bit closer to give ourselves that sense of achievement, that pat on the back. And often the people we consider mentors, our friends, family, things like that, or someone that doesn't want to tell you the truth, doesn't want to actually help you push and reach, breaking that 4-minute mark, they're actually doing you a disservice. And so looking at the right mentors, and one that's going to secretly push those pylons away because they believe that that's how you're going to actually reach your goals, I think it's super important. And so take some time and take a look at your current mentorship that you're getting and see if are they pulling the pylons closer to you or further away.
And it's tough, as you suggested, finding mentor and, mention some people online. I mean, it's where it gets really
Yeah.
tough is, especially there's detail mentor like
Oh yeah,
coaches and these guys that, you know, they've been out of business 20 years, but they want to coach
yeah,
you and talk about entrepreneurship. It's like, huh?
yeah,
Or they're 20
yeah.
and they want to be your life coach. Like,
Yeah, it's
excuse
like,
me?
how about you have a life first, and then
Yeah, like I get it. You got some good stuff to say. I'm not hating on
yeah,
what you know, but I just don't know, you know. So it's good. I love the idea. Absolutely. I always, as a young guy, I always wanted somebody to help, like somebody
yeah,
to call it a Padawan to, you know, to a Jedi, right? Like I
yeah,
always wanted to have somebody kind of bring me along and guide me and let me. Never found it.
yeah.
Never. Most people always ran away from me.
That part I understand. No, I'm just kidding. But it is tough though. It's
Ah, it's very
yeah,
tough. It's
and
tough.
especially because a lot of people that have finally, made it or accomplished something. Like even now, I get asked all the time, like, "Hey, could you mentor me? Could you do this and that?" And it's just time. Like,
I Yeah, and so that's why I think you run into the guys that want to, which is ironic, right? We talked earlier about
yeah,
time or money, but like there does like so. And if you're not going to want to just go pay somebody, right? So
mhm,
there's plenty of these people you can go pay. I'm not going to voice my opinion anymore about that. I think if you want to do it bootstrapped, in a sense, if you want to do it the way that you could do it, is go get an Audible account, force yourself to
yeah,
sign up for that $15 a month credit and use them.
yeah,
Learn, sit as you're doing, stop entertaining yourself. The amount of people that waste their time listening to music. Don't get me wrong, right? We've talked about
love
my
music.
love for
Yeah,
EDM. I love music. However, I realized that I was trading my time for entertainment and I
mhm,
wasn't educating myself. I remember this quote, and it was something I butchered again, but it's something probably like 60 books a year, the average CEO reads, something like that, or this,
yeah,
right? Some crazy number. I can't read, so I don't do that. I listen to books or I'll listen to podcasts and I'll just schedule throughout the day who I'm going to listen to, right? Do I want to learn about sales? Do I want to learn about, you know, likability? Do I want to learn about schedule? Do I want to learn about, you know, this David Goggins? Went through that one, right? That was a
yeah,
great book, right? Like listening
yeah,
to that type of stuff really does. They can all become your mentor. That Think and Grow
exactly.
Rich guy talked about this from 100 years ago of there's, you know, there's these receptors and receivers in our brain and people say things and like you literally can create, you can imagine, you can use their environment, what they did and their hit life to bring into yours. You can do it. That would definitely be a book to go get and understand what he was talking about.
100%, yeah, and I always loved reading, but I've gotten into the audiobooks as well because I can skip certain segments, I can go back to it, I can because sometimes,
Well,
like
for me, I've got to put it in like
yeah,
1.2 or 1.5. Like for me to
yeah,
pay
you can
attention, I've got
speed
to
it
go
up.
fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, but that's the beauty about it, and the cool thing is that for very little money, so instead of, paying one of these, like, so-called gurus or something online, like, "Oh, buy my course for, $3,000 or something." $3,000 goes a long way on Audible, like, a long way, and you can literally have conversations with people where the beauty about it is you're cutting through all the fluff and the bullshit, like, they've literally it's gone through an editor, a publisher, all these things, so they've condensed it down so you're just getting the meat and potatoes. And so for like, $20, $15, you can have literally a conversation with someone that's successful in whatever, component of your journey you want to learn about, whether it's sales, marketing, SEO, could be anything. They've got topics on that. And that's where definitely take advantage. I think it's highly underused by society, 100%. And I do YouTube videos too sometimes.
Mhm.
I follow certain channels. The one thing I would caution there is that people should pick and choose because and also pick and choose your platforms because a lot of those platforms, unlike Audible, they're designed to keep you there for
And
hours
get views.
and
Yeah.
hours and hours
Mhm.
exactly.
There
And
for
so
views and time. Yeah.
yeah, so that's more of a time commitment. And so when it comes to trading your time and your money, Audible, like I said, you're going to get the condensed. This is the cliff notes, what you need to know. YouTube. The longer they keep you there, the better. So, you know, just keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah.
But
All right. So for my tip today, I was thinking about a struggle that a lot of us have, and that's,
Mm.
well, making a sale.
Yeah.
Right. And I was thinking about selling somebody and how difficult that can be. And I
Mm.
was, as we were thinking through from the weekend, I was sitting there on my couch and I was just trying to think about, what I think probably one of the best tips that I learned and learned it, from doing it. Plus, then as I listened to Audible and listened to sales books, so many people also talk about this. It's finding common ground.
Ah,
Like, you, if we're hesitant, if you're a person that's hesitant to strike up a conversation, or, well, what do I say? Or how do I even talk to somebody? The absolute best way is find common ground. Let's put it into a different perspective.
mm.
You're a guy that wants to go be a mobile detail maintenance and you want to grow your business. What is the thing that you need to do with your customer on a regular time that you see them? You need to talk to them,
Talk. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it is good to have, the ability to not see your customers, but you do need, you do really need to, if you're the owner, be there to talk
Yeah.
to them occasionally. Or let's say you don't have guys out doing it full time and you're the guy with you and maybe one other guy or something, right? Like, what do you say?
Mm.
You're a 20-year-old kid, right? So here's a challenge. You're 20 to 25 and you got a 60-year-old man. I mean,
Yeah.
what common ground? That's right. Like, what do you say? But you have to have, I think you would agree, anybody that's been in sales, anybody that's been in business a long time, you got to have relationships with your customers.
Mm-hmm.
So for
100%.
instance, we just have a new distributor come on board. Kimberly, not you, but thank you. Also you, new distributor in Canada. I wasn't thinking about her, but now that I talk about this show and one time I was like, oh yeah, Kimberly too. But we have a new distributor in Kansas City. And my conversations with him heavily were around barbecue.
Ah,
Kansas City, right?
yeah.
Absolutely know that this guy's most likely, right? A little bit of car talk, but a lot of barbecue talk.
Yeah.
Now that it's going into the fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that after Sunday's first loss, now we get to talk about the Chiefs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now there's a reason for me to watch the Kansas City Chiefs play football, to know how they're doing, to know about, right? Then when I talk to them, oh man, yeah, did
Got
you see
something to
that?
say.
Right? So
Yeah.
easy, right?
That's true.
Maybe you see a guy and you look at him and you look at his clothing. Maybe it's his
Yeah.
shoes. Maybe, but so many people, which is why I love food. I guarantee if that guy's rolling in a Porsche, he probably also likes to cook steak, right? He
Yeah.
probably also has a really nice backyard patio, right? Like he probably has some things that you can talk about, right? Like, hey, what's been your favorite cut of meat lately, right? Or hey, man,
Yeah.
you probably can find out if they play golf. Either way, finding something
I was just
that
about to
might,
mention the golf clubs. We when someone shows up and the trunk is empty, depending on their gender, we'll make different sort of like little jokes about something. So like usually when it's the guys that come in and they've got empty trunk and stuff, we'll be like, oh, perfect place to put your clubs, and then see how he reacts. And he's like, oh no, I don't golf. Perfect, no problem. So we try and find something else, and then same thing, flip that. We do it.
okay, but hold on. I don't want to say that you should always, I didn't want to go too far into this, that I don't misunderstand. If he does play golf and you don't, that's not common ground. So don't
Yeah, that's
misunderstand
true.
me. Right. Like, so
That's
that's why I
true.
wanted to make sure
Oh
you
yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
see if you
People
do,
might hear.
but okay. Golf clubs is perfect though, right? Because you can begin to find what they do. And if you don't do it,
Yeah.
right? Because you're right. So I would open up the trunk and there was a guy that always had a bowling ball there. So one
Ah,
time I just asked him about his bowling ball.
yeah, yeah.
I I haven't bold and forever, which is what I said. And
Yeah.
then I could go into, what do you like? Right. So even if it's not something that do not try and create common ground with
On
something you have
uncommon ground.
no
Yeah.
idea about. So I didn't push that for common ground, and
That'll
I
actually
never
have the opposite effect too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I never talked to that guy about bowling balls ever again because I don't bowl, but I at least had that was the sales part of it. But the common ground side of it, you do have to eventually find something that you both like, and then you can talk to them about it. And then, right, you have this part of where we talked about there's a financial exchange and there's a relationship there that builds that in depth more of the relationship combined with the financials. That's how you can
That's a
grow
formula for
long
success.
term,
Yeah.
massive long
Yeah.
term
And
success.
to add one thing to that, I would say try not to try to find common ground that isn't relating to their car specifically.
Mm.
And a few reasons for that is cars change, number one. So if that becomes the common ground, that one particular car, cars do change. But the other thing too is that it's like they know they're bringing their car to you. That's already that's already kind of common ground in a sense. Like you're there to work on their vehicle, they're bringing their vehicle there, they get it. It doesn't seem personal at that point. And the common ground you want to look for is something more on a personal
You
level.
you could use the car and say, "Hey, I saw some grass. Been anywhere fun lately?" Or, "Hey, I noticed
Yeah.
something. You guys been on a trip?" Right? You could
Mhm.
say something that would be
Like a
a
lead in.
general lead in, and then they might
Yeah.
go, "Oh yeah, we went down to this restaurant and da, 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 da. Oh yeah, I love to eat there too." Or, "Yeah, I'd love to eat out. What are some of your other favorite restaurants?" And then next time, "Oh yeah, hey, I went now go to it." If they give
Yeah.
you a restaurant to go to, you better go to it.
Yeah.
If it's their restaurant, go to it. "Hey, I tried that restaurant you mentioned last time. Thank you so much. That was such a great," right? Like boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
And that's a really good one too, because then they feel there's that give and take as well, you know? So there's the you took their advice, so then now when you give them advice, "Hey, by the way, you should add this, to your package," or something like that. There's kind of that level of trust that's there now too. So absolutely. But man, that's a good tip though. Yeah, common ground and how to make a sale, because that is something I think a lot of people struggle with. And it's the easiest way is building that common ground. And that's where clothing, music, food, activities like sports. Yeah, we try and stay away. It's just us at our shop. We try and stay away from the sports side of things, because here most people say the hockey thing, and then when it comes to different teams, oh boy. Yeah. But that being said, all depends, and there's ways that you can handle those.
Yeah, you can say, "Oh yeah, okay, so you're a Steeler fan? That's cool. I'm not. I love watching them, and you could talk about the Steelers. That's
Yeah,
not a problem."
yeah,
I've done it to where I've just said, if I knew they'd like something, right, it might not be common ground, but it might be some that would be much more salesy of like, you're
yeah.
always, it really does for this point of what I'm saying is it's that next level of actually finding something that you both enjoy. Because
Yeah.
you can keep customers around by just always saying, "Hey, how's your team?" Or, "Hey, how's it?" But
Yeah.
if you could actually find something you both enjoy, that's
It's
when it gets
like
better. Yeah.
solidified now.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And put all this information in your CRM, put it into OrbisX. Super important. We do that. We look for certain things and we just make random notes. The guy might have a book on the back his back
So
window.
inside the customer profile, they can go in and start logging what the customer likes, what
Exactly.
their habits are.
Yep.
That's
And
valuable information.
oh yeah, and then you just have it. And then the cool thing too is you could look up. Let's say you put it in your notes or the journal. You can search, and you can even tag them in OrbisX. So maybe it's a sports team name, and then now you can go and look up all your customers that have that exact same interest that you tagged, and then now you can go do an SMS blast to all those people. Powerful. Oh yeah. Just checking in. Sorry the Chiefs took a whooping. you know, Little things like that. Super powerful, very easy to do, but only made possible with the one and only OrbisX. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate you. And congratulations. I know there's some upcoming product stuff going on. So very excited to hear about that. Guys, don't forget, tune in to the Pints and Polishing podcast as well, and reach out about some distributor opportunities to expand your horizons. Awesome. Anything else, Marty? We're good. All right. I will see you next Tuesday. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. All right, cheers.